Hey everyone, Mike here, and I'm joined by our third guest from Transformers 1. He voiced the legendary character of Jazz, and he also might have appeared in one of your favorite Battle Royale games. Evan Michael Lee, thank you for joining.
Oh, thank you for having me. Oh, the intro, not the favorite battle royale game.
I definitely want to talk a little bit about that later on
Sure,
too,
sure,
but
sure, sure.
but we'll start off with Jazz and Transformers 1.
Yeah.
And also, before we even get started, thank you for the poster. You and Jason and John sent that over. I really appreciate that. It was
Oh, of
super
course,
cool.
absolutely. Yeah, I know. I clocked it in the background. I was like, do my eyes deceive me?
Yeah, I
So it's
got
like
it framed. Don't have it hung up yet, but I got it ready to go.
that's good. You got a lot of real estate going on back there. So like, yeah, take your time.
Yeah. So, voicing Jazz. So I want to know, first of all, how did you get the news that you landed the role, and how long did you have to wait before you told anyone about it?
Too long, too long. No, like I started off with this production. I started off just doing what's known as a little bit of scratch audio. It's just like filler in for some of the other characters. I was just filling in for Bumblebee and Megatron and just like a couple of ancillary characters with no like preconceived like thoughts of, oh, they're gonna like put me in the movie. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I came in a few times, and Josh Cooley is awesome. Like he and I bonded really quickly, and then like the rest of the crew, they're all just so wonderful and so passionate about the project. So I was just happy to be of service. That's kind of my whole, I don't know, thing with acting is this. I feel is like a service job, and anything that comes beyond that is a bonus. So I was prepared to just like do the job and just leave. Well, it was around, I think it was April of this year. Yeah, it was April of this year. My agent called me, and he never calls, So I knew if he called, it was either I was getting fired for something or something great. I always play worst case scenario, but he left a voicemail saying, "Call me back when you get this message immediately." I was like, "All right." I'm like, "What's up?" So he was like, "So I have some really, really good news for you." And I was like, "Okay, like, did I like win the lottery or something?" It was like close. um, like the production over there at Transformers, they were so impressed with you and they really really liked you, and you've been such a joy to work with and be around and whatnot. They have one more role that they need filled, and they wanted to know if you would do them the honor of voicing the role of Jazz. And Michael, in that moment, time might as well have frozen. I was like, wait, I'm sorry, like, what? Yeah. I was in my kitchen and I just stood there. It was like, wait, you know what I mean? Because like I'm already in like good company with like Hemsworth and ScarJo and Brian Tyree Henry and John Hamm and Lawrence Fishburne and Steve Buscemi and so on and so forth. So I was like, yeah, let me check my schedule. Yes, I'll do it.
Like,
Yeah.
now I'm gonna pass.
Yeah. Could you imagine? Could you imagine? I'm like, yeah, no, I think I'm a little too good for Jazz. This voice actor who no one knows. Yeah. So like it was the I might as well have won the lottery that day.
So how long did you have to wait before mentioning it?
I mean, let me see. So like I guess like half a year.
Wow.
Yeah, about half a year. I had to just kind of sit tight on it. And I'll give you another little fun factoid. It had no bearing on me getting this job, but the first day they hired me, unbeknownst to the crew, I actually work at Universal Studios here, and I voice Optimus Prime and Megatron for the theme park. It's
That's
like
really cool.
yeah. I don't know if you've seen any of the TikToks of Megatron roasting people.
That's
It
you.
Well, me and like 11 other voice actors, so we all
Okay.
kind of sound different, but I'm definitely somewhere in the mix of TikTok videos. But if you ever on your phone scrolling, if you need a little entertainment, do yourself the favor and just keep scrolling. It's probably my favorite job ever that I've ever had. It's just
Yeah.
being Megatron and just getting to like roast people.
Yeah, Megatron really does a good job at roasting
Yeah,
people.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah. So they had no idea I worked there, so they were like very curious as to how the show worked. So I kind of explained it to them, and I think Josh said maybe like a couple of weeks after I told him, I think he went by the park to check it out, and he said it was like really, really funny. So I was like, oh, good. When the time comes, I'll tell everyone, but I don't want to say anything yet because I don't want to blow my cover.
So, after you got the role, the movie came out.
Hmm.
The fan reaction has been great, especially to Jazz. Everyone seems to love you as the voice. How does that feel?
Man, listen, we haven't seen Jazz since 2007 when Megatron decided to put hands on him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
split him right in
yeah,
half.
yeah, man. Listen, I'm still trying to get my licks in. Trying to get my licks in. Well, I think that was also part of the time freezing moment of like, oh wow, we haven't seen this guy in a really, really long time in the movies, and
Hmm.
now he's coming back, and now it's me. So it's like, oh, like how is this gonna be received? Because again, like, I mean, not to like diminish my light or anything, but I'm not a celebrity, so you have this, dare I say, a legacy character given to an unknown. It felt really, really cool, and simultaneously going, oh God, I hope people aren't going to be, too harsh on me, because I know, again, we all grew up with Scatman Crothers, so like we all kind of have a vision of what he sounds
Hmm.
like. But again, I would also say this is pre that, because this is Orion Pax and D16, so
Yeah.
they're all like before we knew them. So
So speaking of the past voices, is that something that you focused on to kind of draw inspiration from, or did you kind of try to keep it more your own?
I really let Josh take the helm. I mean, he really was at the helm of this entire movie, so I really didn't try. I mean, I didn't try to insert too much of
Hmm.
what I think he should sound like or anything like that. I think because we only see Jazz so briefly in this movie, we definitely wanted to make him sound as though he does fit in with the rest of everyone else. Before they all become Autobots and Decepticons. So
Yeah.
yeah, we definitely just wanted to make sure that okay, he sounds more like how everyone else sounds, and not so much like a character.
Hmm.
So I just
Um,
trusted Josh.
yeah, and how was working with Josh? How
Ah,
was
he is very, very, very funny. He's so chill, and okay, so I'll tell you, he'll hear this one day, or maybe I'll tell him in person one day. So when I got the job, I can't believe I'm saying this. I didn't know who Josh was the whole time. I'm going back in and doing scratch up, but like he's just like such a cool guy, and I'm like chopping it up with him. We're like jokey back and forth, and I'm like, he's like a cool dude or whatever. It wasn't until I got Jazz is when I pulled out like my phone. I said, well, like, what has Josh done with his life? What has Josh done with his life? He's only done a lot with his life. So I was like, oh, I see. So Josh is a somebody. But to my credit, I think sometimes it pays not to look people up. Because
yeah, I
what if
agree.
imagine if I like looked it up ahead of time, then like who knows, that might have gotten in my head, or I would have been like weird or whatnot, because that does happen to some people. It doesn't really happen to me, but it's a blessing in disguise that I did not look him up. I mean, I know who Josh is now, um but yeah, like to that point, I didn't know who Josh was. Sorry,
That's
Josh, if you
funny.
hear this. But I know him now, and he's one of the homies. So yeah, we talk semi regularly, semi.
And then I had spoken to Jason Conapisos. He was on here a little bit ago, and he
Yeah,
mentioned that you and John Bailey, the three of you, have kind of gotten pretty close with after the events of the movie. So how's that been? Kind of getting to know them.
we did. Obviously we didn't do all of the red carpet premiere stuff, but the premiere we did go to, we bonded and kind of stuck together because we're like the three like non-famous people in the movie. So it's like we felt pretty honored just to be in such good company. But we recently we had the luxury of going to LA Comic Con, and so I think it was in that moment we really kind of connected, because a lot of these fans are coming up to us and they're bringing their families and their kids, and they're talking about just what Transformers means to them. And I heard some really funny stories. I heard some like really, really touching stories where I'm like I'm like my hands are under the table trying not to get emotional, because someone is just like very, very like lovingly but just very earnestly pouring their heart out as to like
Yeah.
what this franchise means. And as a fan, I get that. We're all fans of something, whether it be Transformers or whatever, and sometimes it really does mean more than just these characters. It gives us a maybe sometimes even a purpose to be a better person. So
Yeah.
I think getting to share that experience with the two of them um, definitely was a huge honor. And then look at us, Autobots and Decepticons getting along.
Yeah, I see you and Jason kind of have some bickering back and forth on Twitter when you're in character. Kind of a
Listen,
Jazz and Shockwave thing.
listen, I lost a leg, but I got it back. But I didn't get punched in the eye twice. So, I mean, that's really on Jason to maybe not, run his mouth to Elita 1 if he wants to get punched in the eye again. I hope he hears this. So, Jason, maybe pipe down once in a while.
I'll make sure he sees this.
Oh, he will. He will. He will. And I'm sure I'll get a text message or a DM or something from him.
So, as far as Transformers as a whole, how familiar were you with the franchise before coming into this? Is it something that you watched at all? Were you not
Oh
really
my.
maybe familiar at all?
Okay, I'll try to give the not so long-winded version of this story, but Transformers has really always kind of been in the hemisphere of my life, and maybe I just didn't realize it until I got to this point. So, like, as most of us, we all grew up watching the cartoon, and I would say, honestly, I was probably a middle of the road fan. Like, we all know Optimus and Megatron and and like, all the usual suspects. Middle of the road fan. My godmother gave my brother an Optimus Prime action figure as a kid, so we all thought that was pretty cool. When I was in college, I went to Auburn University and I studied theater there. We had a guest speaker come to our class, and he was just there for a week. He was an Auburn graduate. He was not a theater major. I believe he was like economics or something, but somehow through life he moved out to LA and he was an actor and he popped up on TV shows and movies and whatnot. Well, I guess rumblings around the school kind of made its way to the theater, and someone found out that he was currently working on the very first Transformers movie. His name is Michael O'Neill. So if you go back and watch that movie, he comes in like halfway in the movie. He's like some government guy with like a briefcase, and he's very serious, got like a mustache. He came and talked to my class. So like when I heard he was in the new Transformers movie, I was like, that's so cool. But beyond that, he just left such a good impression on me. Like I even, having seen the movie and I was like, oh, good, Michael's in there, good. Like I always carried the experience he taught me and just giving the acting notes and just being very, very encouraging. So I always thought about him for many, many years. And then back in 2017, I went to Tokyo and I was in this little bookstore and I saw an original Optimus Prime, like action figure in the box, like
Oh,
untouched.
wow.
And I was just like standing there and I was like, whoa. And I was like looking at it for like 5 minutes and I was starting to walk away and I stopped myself and I said, when's the next time you're coming to Tokyo, Evan? Like, cause I thought about getting it for my brother, but I was like, nah, because like he won't care. So I was like, you know what? I went back, I went to the guy at the front desk. I said, excuse me, can you box this up? I'm going to take this back to America with me. I'm going to give it to my brother. So I bought it there and I gave it to my brother. And it's one of the very few times I've ever seen my brother. I only have one brother, he's older. It's one of the few times I've only seen him speechless. I think it really, really like, it was a core memory for him. And it was a core memory for me too. So I was happy to be able to share that with him. On top of working at the theme park, and then now being in the movie. So, and as you see, connecting all those dots,
Yeah.
Transformers has always been around me. And then to land here, it's like, oh, I guess it makes sense I would eventually end up here. And even if it wasn't like a life goal, like a dream of, oh, wouldn't it be nice if, but now that I am here, it's like, oh, yeah, I guess this makes sense. Sorry, that was a very roundabout way of telling you part of my life story, but there you go.
Hey, it was interesting.
Oh, good. I sometimes worry I'm too long-winded or boring.
So, the Universal gig, how long has that been going on?
My buddy Chris got me into that gig. I've been there now at this point, what, a year and some change? Well, no. At this point, probably a year and a half. Year and a half of being Optimus Prime and Megatron. And the good part about being Optimus is you do a set with Bumblebee. So like to see the looks on kids' faces and we have a microphone and headphones, so I can hear everything everyone's saying. So but to see, them light up seeing Optimus Prime and saying like you're my favorite and like you're my hero, I'm always what's on the right day, it gets me, right in the feels. And then on Megatron days, I genuinely love making people laugh. It's never like I never try to be deliberately hurtful, but like just a little playful jab, something we can all laugh at, and then I send them on their merry way. So I love it. This is my favorite job.
Have you ever gotten to the point where you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that, or maybe that was crossing the line a little bit?
Nope, nope, no regrets.
I love that.
Yeah. No, every now because it's all improv based, so
Yeah.
we don't have a script. Whatever, however you come up, that's whatever the interaction's gonna be. So sometimes I'm like, I'm not gonna say that because that might be too hurtful. But every now and then the spirit moves me, and I'm like, I'm gonna take a swing,
And
and
that's
I
when it goes
do.
on TikTok.
Exactly, exactly. And then it's a winner. So I'm like, good. Trust your instincts.
Now, voicing Jazz in
Uh huh.
Transformers 1, he is, I've noticed, actually in probably two of the biggest scenes in the movie. The first time we see him is when Orion ends up saving him from the mines,
Uh
and
huh.
that kind of shows how, he is just kind of more this heroic character. And
Hmm.
then when we see him again, he's doing his big speech at the end, and Jazz is basically front and center for this speech talking to Orion. How does it feel that while Jazz isn't in the movie a lot, he is in some very significant scenes?
I mean, I think that's without speaking for Josh, because obviously I was not part of the creative process in that regard. But if I had to guess, that that wasn't an accident. That's I think that was very deliberate. I mean, as we all know, in the original cartoon, Jazz is like right there with Optimus. So I feel like when those two pivotal moments of Orion saving Jazz, and then having that heartfelt speech when he finally does transform for the first time, it would make sense why Jazz has such a kinship with
Hmm.
Optimus, and at this point would do anything, like, go wherever he goes. You lead, I'll follow, I'm right there with you. So yeah, I think it justifies why in the original Jazz would be Optimus' right hand man and why he would trust him arguably the most.
Now, when Josh was directing you,
Uh-huh.
did you kind of nail the voice right away, or did you kind of go through a couple different iterations of the voice? Did you change it up at all?
Well, I was like I said, like when I was working initially, I was doing just kind of guard number two and
Hmm.
doing some Megatron and like Bumblebee. So like I already knew how Keegan Michael Key sounded. I knew how Brian Tyree Henry sounded. So when we were coming up with the voice, it's like, well, it can't sound too much like Bumblebee, and obviously it can't sound like Megatron. I don't think there was any real discussion over trying to sound like the original voice of Jazz, just because no one else in the cast is trying to sound like the original actors, of
Hmm.
course,
Yeah.
until like arguably till like maybe the end, of course. But yeah, there was never any discussion about trying to emulate or mimic someone else's performance. Which I get it in some cases that is necessary,
Hmm.
for certain other legacy characters. But in this one, it was never a discussion. But who knows? If we get a sequel, maybe we'll explore that.
I feel like I think Chris Hemsworth is a good example of how everyone knows how Optimus Prime sounds, and
Yes,
everyone knows Peter Cullen's Optimus Prime. And
yes,
while Hemsworth's take on the character sounded the heroic Optimus-ish, it
yeah,
wasn't exactly Peter Cullen. And I
right.
think it really worked. And I think really all the voices in this movie just kind of hit that note where you can identify it, but it's not exactly what it was before. And I think that was good since this is such, the beginning of their story pretty much.
You're right, and it's sort of a, I would imagine it's sort of a double-edged sword, right? Because if you sound too much like the character, then it's like, oh, now you
Like an
get that like you're
impersonation.
you're
Yeah.
just doing an impersonation. It becomes this sort of like it's a parlor trick or whatever. But if you do your own spin on it, then of course you have your own spotlight of scrutiny that comes with it. So it's really just, in my opinion, it's really just trusting the story that once people are invested and they're locked in, everything else just kind of falls by the wayside. And I will say, and even though you didn't ask this question, I will say that has been, and I've told this to people, I guess that's been the more surprising part of this whole experience, is because as with any movie, you're gonna have people who love it and people who don't love it. And I'm totally fine with that. Everyone's got their own opinion. But just the amount of praise this movie got out the gate
Yeah.
and continues to get, it has me like I like lean back of like, okay, so everyone likes this movie. You know what I mean? Like really, like you guys aren't just like pulling an elaborate like prank on us, right? Or me. Like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, but I'm like, it doesn't seem like the other shoe is gonna drop. It really seems like people hold this movie in a very, very high regard. And you know, I'm biased, obviously, like working on it. I always thought it was something special. I guess I was maybe naive in thinking that everyone else would see the vision that I and so many of us who worked on it saw as well. So it actually makes me really, really happy.
Yeah, it's everyone, as you said, who has seen it seems to like this movie. So now it's like we got to get more people to see this movie because it's
Yeah.
so good, and I just wish it would do a little bit better at the box office. But hopefully, with streaming coming around and the Blu-ray is going to be coming out in December, I hope that a lot more people decide, hey, I'm finally going to watch this movie
You,
because it just
you,
deserves to be watched.
you know, exactly. Now that it's on digital, it's doing really well on digital. I think on Amazon,
Yeah, it was
it's
number
like the
one, I think, for the
number one.
pre-sales.
Yeah, I think the Blu-rays are completely sold out on Amazon.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be in all the the retail stores. So I'm hoping that will give it another gigantic push that I think it could use in order to justify making another one. Because like as I'll say right now, like I don't know the status of a Transformers 1, 2. That's above my pay grade. I just continue to go on with life, and if we get the phone call one day saying that Paramount and Hasbro want to green light another one, I will absolutely clear my schedule, and you will see me in the booth. But in the meantime, we're just gonna keep moving forward.
And kind of going back to when we were talking about
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
impersonations a little bit,
yeah.
I saw a video of you doing a Darth Vader that was spot on.
How about them apples?
And in fact, I'm pretty sure I saw this video a couple of years ago and didn't realize that, this was you.
Oh, really?
So I think you did it, you first kind of released a video back in like 2022 or something, am
20
I right?
September of 2022. I did. Yeah.
And you do a spot on Darth Vader.
Ah, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. So, like, I won't be too long-winded with it, but I'm not a big celebrity impersonator, right? I don't have a list of celebrities I can sound like. I wish I was that kind of voice actor, but I'm not. But somehow, when I was in college, I've just started doing theater, and I was not like a kid actor growing up. I didn't do theater or dance or sing or anything like that. So I was very, very new to theater, and I was sitting in the audience with two guys who I just met. We were auditioning for Galileo, right? Right, LOL. And then I don't know, to this day, I don't know how we got on the subject of Disney. Don't know how we got on the subject of Disney, but somehow, some way, The Lion King came up, and we're all just talking about like, oh yeah, it's one of our favorite movies, and I was just like, Luke Simba, everything the light touches is our kingdom, and they're like, whoa, that's pretty good. You should go up and like do that up there. I was like, right, all right, and I went up and I kind of like brought that out on stage, and the director was like, I love it, and I was like, all right, cool, and then he like put me in the show, and then I kind of like was like, okay, well, like I'll like keep that little factoid in my back pocket. And then for many, 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 many years, I didn't do anything with it. I just kind of like, kind of did it to myself just to kind of entertain myself. But I never showcased it um, in a whole, publicly or anything like that. It wasn't until I started getting back into voice acting, we had to do a voice match. You had to pick a celebrity, and you had to try your best to sound like them. And I was like, well, I only got one, so I went with that, and it was definitely one of those turning points in life because that left the class arguably pretty spellbound because I don't think anyone's really attempted to try to really mimic James Earl Jones as much as R.I.P. as much as anyone really. So like gave it a shot, and then with the whole AI conversation, I saw that he had signed his rights over, which like, all right, I guess that was his choice. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but I was like, you know what? I think a human being should be taking over some of these legacy roles, getting to talk about legacy roles. So I'm like, my old teacher and my good buddy Andrew Rocho, he hit me up and was like, hey, I know you can do a Darth Vader because I did it in his class. And he said, we got to get you recording that because if we don't do it now, like this window will go by and no one's going to talk about it, but like we got to do it soon. So I was like, great. I went over to his house. We did it we recorded like 8 hours. Like my voice was thrashed by the end of the day. It was just like, ugh. But we got 5 videos made. and that was the first one I posted, and I was not I was not really expecting the feedback it garnered in a day, and I was not expecting Mark Hamill himself to not only like it but comment twice on
Wow,
it.
that's cool.
And then it opened up it opened me up to just a new category of voice acting, I believe, and that's still on the bucket list of one day in some capacity, whether it be a mobile game or a movie. Just give me the audition for Darth Vader and just like let me crack my knuckles and let me do it, because that's really all I got. I can't do Stewie Griffin. I can't do Bart Simpson. That James Earl Jones. That's my one ace in the hole.
Hey, that's a good one to have.
Listen, right? Not too shabby. Not too
Yeah,
shabby.
that's a very iconic character to be able to replicate.
And I was a little nervous doing it too, because I know how Star Wars fans can be. They're very passionate. So I didn't want it to seem like I was trying to step on anyone's toes.
Yeah.
But like, I'm glad it was very, very clear. I was just trying to highlight the difference between what artificial intelligence can produce and what a human being can produce.
Yeah.
And then at that point, without inserting my opinion, really, it's just like I'll let the consumer decide.
So,
Sorry, that was my little AI TED talk.
which, kind of creeping into the conversation is the whole AI situation. So it's
It's something.
touchy subject. Yeah.
It is something. It is something, and I don't know. On my end of things, we're doing all we can to put some guardrails in place. We'll see what the future holds for AI. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't see exactly where it's going, but I think it would behoove not just voice actors, but just as many people as possible, if you feel like you are forward facing enough, to put some guardrails in place, because then sadly we live in a world where there are some nefarious people out there who might not like you and might use that technology for their own ill will.
So I guess jumping back to a little bit
Yeah,
more of a
right.
lighter conversation. I want to talk about, like, was there any fun, notable lines that you did record in the movie that just kind of didn't make the cut? Or do you think everything that you did kind of pretty much made it?
I think what made it in there was pretty much what I did. I will say, whatever. I guess enough people have seen the movie right now, so spoiler incoming. But the scene where my leg is trapped and Orion comes to save me, that scene was done to animation at the moment. So I saw how the scene was going to play out.
Okay.
So I always, anytime I do whatever project, my goal is to at least make the director or the engineer or anyone behind the glass, make them laugh one time. So when Orion runs away, I let out a pretty high pitched scream of like, what? But it definitely got Josh and the entire crew laughing.
Yeah.
I was just like, yes. But that's not the one they kept. Even though I thought that was the one that was the most hilarious. But I get it. I don't have final say.
Well, I don't know what it sounded like the other one, but the one that was in the movie, it was still pretty funny.
Okay, good. Because I thought that was hilarious. Of just like, oh yeah, I'll get out of here, and not even stay to help me. I was like, oh man, it's cold as ice, cold as ice. But
I was lucky to see it in a really packed theater. It was about a month before it came out officially. It was an early screening, and everyone was super into it. And I know that scene specifically did get a laugh.
Oh, did it? Good. Yeah. Good. Because I went opening night, and I went to the Paramount premiere. And then I saw it again with some other friends. So it always got a good laugh. So I'm glad. I'm good. I'm like, good. I did my job. Love making people laugh.
Now, speaking of a sequel, potential sequel, hopefully it does happen.
Yes.
If you had any say at all in which way you'd want Jazz to go in the future, kind of what would you want to see for him as a character?
If I had any say whatsoever, if the powers that be would let me, I would say just a little bit, like we're in this world now where we have all these franchises and IPs where we expand the universe, right? Everyone's kind of getting a little bit more time in the spotlight to really, really explore who they are as a character. I would hope that, in the future, if we're going to open up Cybertron, if you will, we could explore a little bit more of who Jazz is as a Autobot and some of his wants and needs and desires, and maybe even some of his shortcomings. I would love to see a fully realized, more in-depth, more nuanced Jazz that we haven't seen before. And I believe if we get a sequel, Lord willing, I believe Josh and the entire team are the perfect people to have at the helm to make that a reality.
Yeah, agreed. Because
Yeah.
I just, as a Transformers fan, watching Transformers 1 in theaters was just an incredible experience. It really felt like it nailed everything. It nailed what Transformers was supposed to be. It nailed what the characters were supposed to be. It just felt so genuine from all the creatives on board. So, I just congratulate you on being a part of that and kind of putting your touch on that with Jazz.
Thank you. Thank you. I was actually living in Chicago at the time when the first Transformers came out, and I went to the big IMAX downtown. So that's where I saw the first Transformer movie. So I got like quite the experience of some of those fight scenes. It was like, whew, And then my boy Jazz getting ripped in half by Megatron.
Yep. Rest in peace.
And then of course spoiler, Sentinel Prime getting the same treatment by the same character.
Yes.
I was like,
Just loves ripping people in half.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I'll add that into the mix. If we get a sequel, Jazz has to get a right hook in there somewhere on Megatron. Yeah.
He deserves it.
A curb stomp, a right hook, a stone cold stunner. Something's got to happen. You know what I mean?
He's been through too much. He needs that moment.
Too much. Revenge. Let's get petty for a moment.
So now you voice Jazz. Another famous, another popular thing that you're a part of is Fortnite.
Yeah, how about that?
And now Sarah Natochetty, who voices Ash from Pokemon, did a recent interview with IGN and mentioned that when she voiced Ringmaster Scar in Fortnite, you use a language called Fortlish. Is that the official term for it?
You are correct, yes.
So how do you go about voicing in Fortlish?
Prayer. Like, truly, like, yeah. I, like, went in for, like, my first session, and they were so happy to have me. And they kind of were explaining the same situation of, like, okay, so this game has their own language? And I'm like, already skeptical. So it's like, we have to make it, like, they'll have their language, right, in one screen, and then on the next screen they'll have like what it should sound like in English, but at the end of the day, it's a creative and hilarious form of gibberish, but having to make it sound like you're looking for enemies in the distance, or you're trying to take cover fire, you're suspicious, or even just like anger or happiness or joy. I think as a voice actor, sometimes you're thrown with things, and a lot of times you don't get scripts ahead of time, so you get there, you go like, we'll see. I think I think I handled it well. It's definitely something I would say to any voice actor, if you're gonna get cast in Fortnite, have an open mind. Have an open mind. Be flexible, because it's very, very, very specific. But I'm glad it was received well.
Now, I kind of want to put you on the spot here.
Oh God!
I'm very curious to know if Hades said something to Jazz. What would that sound like?
Oh God. Okay. Okay. What would the setting be?
Let's say Jazz just got dropped on the island and he doesn't know where he is.
Jazz just got dropped on the island, and Hades maybe spots him in the distance because he's probably not in his car form. He's probably just in like robot form, but probably he would just like AOA power. Very suspicious. I feel like Hades is not the one to really go up with a tray of muffins and say, "Where are you from?" I don't think that's really his jam. So yeah, I think Hades would definitely, the wall would be up. You know.
Oh yeah, just definitely not a friendship moment there.
Yeah. We're not gonna high five.
Love that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I gotta say, looking back
Hmm.
on Transformers, being a part of Transformers,
Yeah.
being this legendary character who has been a part of the series since the very beginning, uh, looking back on the whole experience, what do you have any special memories or moments that always stick out to you that are kind of you're gonna carry with and you're gonna think about?
Yeah, they asked me once what beverage would I like in my session, and I was like, "Oh, whatever." Like I was like, I don't know, LaCroix." And every time I went back in, they had LaCroix. I was like, "Oh, this is what being famous feels like." I thought this was gonna be like a one-time deal, but nope, they had LaCroix and those like Wallaby licorice fruit snacks every time I went there, that was pretty wild. No, but in all seriousness, I think as you so pointed out, I think just being a part of this franchise is pretty awesome just on surface, but like when you get deeper behind that, I think you've seen me being pretty active, and I will continue to be active with the Transformer fandom because everyone has been so kind and so welcoming, so wonderful. Is I truly like enjoy moments like this in hearing just what this franchise means to people. I heard everything from I watched this with my grandma, growing up, or like my dad was terminally ill, and before he passed away, he and I bonded over the show. Or sometimes, like my parents didn't really, get me, but like this was like the one thing we could bond. And so, like hearing that stuff, I think that is the epitome of being of service to others. Is giving them something that will maybe hopefully inspire them to be a better person or to at least try to brighten other people's day. So like in the spirit of jazz, I hope I have done that for the Transformer fandom, and if I'm lucky, will continue to do so moving forward.
Well, I think you did an amazing job as Jazz. I think you just really nailed the voice. I watched it back yesterday and I could just it felt like Jazz. It might not have been trying to imitate people like we were talking about, but it still felt like this is who he should be and this is the voice he should have. So I congratulate you on
Ah,
being able to do this. The movie being so well received, it's gotta feel cool.
it does. It does. It does feel really, really cool. And just, as voice actors go, I'm working class voice actor, these moments don't really happen a lot too. And I know John Bailey was in the Bumblebee movie, and I know he's done some animated films before, but for the most part, most of us voice actors don't get to do this often. We don't get to be in movies, you know what I mean? So the fact that people like, Jason and John and myself were fortunate enough, because I do feel like we are very, very fortunate to be a part of this franchise. It's just a huge honor to join this group of robots who are doing all they can to save Cybertron. And as the Quintessons, take all our energon. We'll see. We may have to stop them one day.
Yeah,
Hopefully Paramount will let us.
I was just talking to Jason Schreier, the production designer, the other day, and he said he's already got some ideas for a sequel, so hopefully it gets green lit.
Oh yeah, I think didn't he say that Josh already has like the second movie mapped out
Yeah,
already,
yeah,
which
got
doesn't
some
surprise me to
Quintesson
hear.
action, got some things going on.
To add a little pepper on top of that, like that doesn't surprise me, just because even when I was doing the movie, going in for like sessions and whatnot, Josh is so knowledgeable of Transformer lore and whatnot. So the fact that he's already road mapped all of this, it doesn't surprise me. I hope his dream is fulfilled, and hopefully I will get to be a part of that.
I hope so as well.
Fingers crossed. But like, I think it's really going to be a determining factor of everyone out there. I think it's as you listen to this podcast, I think it's still in some theaters if you can still find it. Um, Definitely, I would cop it on digital as it comes out on Blu-ray. It's right around the holiday time, so maybe a nice Christmas gift for yourself or a friend or a loved one or anything like that. But I would encourage everyone to purchase this on Blu-ray and digital. if we want a good chance of continuing the fight on Cybertron.
Yes, for sure. Be like Transformers hype guy. Go see this movie.
I mean, talk about out of nowhere. And you know what? Let's go ahead and talk about that for a second because to witness all of us, I would say all of us, to witness one person in real time just passionately hype up a movie. It was nothing short of amazing. And I told him this, and I'll be completely transparent. And I think we should all be on the lookout for this because in the coming days, months, and years, we are all going to see copycats.
Yes.
You're going to see a lot of people try
so.
to do what, and I question if that's going to work because while that is a copycat, this feels genuine.
Yeah.
Like I believe I can comfortably say, I think I speak for all of us. I think TFHypeGuy really, really is a Transformer fan, a diehard fan.
Yeah.
So I think if other movie studios out there see what he did for Transformers and maybe they want to do that for other IPs, I question if it's going to have the same effect.
I think it might feel a little less genuine at that point because it's not the first iteration of something to happen. And once you kind of get that copycat feel, like you said, it just kind of loses it a little bit.
It loses it. So I want to commend him for really being the first. I can't, and someone out there, please correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like in social media, I haven't seen one person really inspire millions around the globe to see one movie all on their own, just simply because they believe in the movie, they like the movie, and they want to see it do well. Like,
Yeah.
am I wrong? Like, someone please tell me.
I remember when his profile first started up with Rise of the Beasts, about 2 years ago or so. And, he got a little bit of traction, but he made it his mission for Transformers 1 for people to go see it. I was just watching his conversations on Twitter, just the most random posts. I wouldn't even be meaning to look up Transformers stuff, and I would just see him.
Same. It is, just a random person with a random profile, maybe not a huge following, but he's right there, giving them movie suggestions of like, hey, I don't know what to watch on a Friday night. And he's right there like, boy, do I got a movie for you. Yeah. It's like, boy, do I got a movie for you. It's like, yes, doing the Lord's work. So yeah, shout out to TFHypeGuy. We salute you, It's incredible. It's incredible. I love it.
It really is. Love it. Well, Evan, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on. A lot of great insight, a lot of funny stories, and
thank you.
It has been great. So, to everyone watching or listening right now, make sure to go see Transformers 1. If you still have it in theaters, go see it 1 or 2 more times. I've seen it 4 times in theaters. I've bought the digital, and I'm gonna buy the physical disc when it comes out too. So I'm doing my part. We gotta get this movie seen. We want a sequel, and it really deserves some attention.
And in the coming days and months and whatnot, who knows? I myself might be even taking this Transformers love and whatnot. I might be taking it on the road. So who knows? I might be in a city near you.
Oh, look at that. Well, Evan, once again, thank you. It has been a pleasure. And until next time, everyone, I'm Mike. See you guys.
See you later.